Professor Lagoke, thank you for joining us on Africa 54. Now, what is your take on the situation in Guinea? Should we have seen this coup coming?
Oh, yes, of course. Thank you very much, Vincent, for this opportunity. And yes, that was something that was expected. It was anticipated because Alpha Conde, the deposed president, has changed the constitution. It was a very unpopular decision, even though he was doing some great works and trying to rebuild the country.
Now, we have mentioned earlier that ECOWAS leaders are meeting virtually today to impose sanctions. They had threatened sanctions and perhaps to figure out the best way to put pressure on those soldiers. But from the history of that region and military takeovers, do these kind of actions ever have any effect?
The sanction may impact the lives of the people, but you know, people have to also look at the fact that in Africa today, there is a rising and growing strong consciousness, and then many people in Africa are tired of presidents who change the constitution to stay there against the will of the people and contrary to what themselves they have promised, because I remember Alpha Conde saying that he was not going to change the constitution. So if the leaders abide by the rules and the constitutions, and the leaders meet the needs of the people, you know, there is no need. I think they can reduce the risk of being overthrown, you know, by the military. Yeah. So they can take any decision, but you know, the military will be there, and maybe they're not going to stay there for a very long time, and then they're going to organize a transition and maybe organize an election for a civilian to take over.
Professor Lagoke, though, is the military a solution? I mean, should the military be always in waiting to, you know, get in when the president, the civilian president, is not performing well? Or what should be the best solution?
It's a difficult question. I will not say that I'm in favor of the military, but I'm explaining why the military can take over. Yeah, so, but and then not all the soldiers. There are some leaders who have the interests of their countries at heart. And Thomas Sankara was one of them who came to power through a revolution. And then Rawlings was there, you know, despite, you know, the missteps. They wanted to, they contributed to advance their countries, you know, to take the country to the next level. So in this case, it could be a popular uprising. It can be the people organizing. But so far, when a country is failing and the people, the opposition, everyone is defeated, you know, by the ruling government, the army as an institution can step in order to restore order. I'm just explaining. I'm not saying that it should be like that.
Yeah, and we know that quite a number of leaders actually have military background, especially in West African region. But we've seen this military takeovers in Chad in recent months or years, Mali. We saw that in Sudan even way before. We saw that in Zimbabwe. Now, somehow saying perhaps this should worry us, that there is a kind of a progress or a degeneration of a democratic process, where increasingly we are seeing the militaries being involved in this kind of takeovers. What's your take on that?
Yeah, again, it's the same thing. When the military take over in some of those countries, we have to see that as a consequence of the bad governance or the way the leaders who are in power are governing the countries. Ibrahim Keita in Mali was a failed leader. And then, so even in the case of Burkina Faso in 2014, it was a popular uprising. And then when there is a popular uprising, the army can step in. This is what I'm saying. And then in the case of Burkina Faso, the army did the right thing. They organized the transition, and then they organized the election. And today we have a president who is there in power in Burkina Faso.
Thank you. We just hope that things turn out well. Thank you very much, Professor. That's Gnaka Lagoke, is an assistant professor of history and Pan-African studies at Lincoln University in the U.S. state of Pennsylvania.